Hi, Claire, compulsive overeater. It's a bit nerve-wracking doing it in front of you because I know you because I know you so well. So just go easy on me. I have just over 7.5 months of abstinence, which is just an absolute miracle. I just don't think this time 8 months ago, if you'd have said you'd be sat there just before Christmas Day with just over 3 stone weight loss, I just wouldn't have believed you. I just was in such a desperate place, just felt so like I'm just lost forever now. This is my life. I just never would have believed it. So I am so grateful and just think it is an absolute miracle. I was looking for some photographs to share, and I just couldn't find any fat photos, for want of a better word, because I realised that in all the photos when I was bigger, I was sort of positioning the camera a bit like this, like I'm in the photo, but you can't really see that I'm actually quite overweight. So it's just like half of my face. But what I have noticed is that more recently I have a whole face in pictures, which is nice. So sorry, I haven't really got anything to share. There was nothing really that gave you an idea of what I looked like before. Just a bigger version of this. I wasn't a big child, I'll start there, but I was a greedy child. I loved food always. It was sort of a running joke in my family that I'd be the first to finish a meal. I'd have a portion size sort of similar to my dad and would always polish it off. And it was sort of positioned like, oh, she's got a healthy appetite. But I was active and I wasn't overweight as a child at all. In my puberty, I think, is when I sort of started to gain a bit of weight and got a bit more freedom around food, and that greediness just carried on, and where I got a bit of independence with my own sort of little part-time jobs and had a bit of money. Food would be the thing I would often spend my money on, I think. And even actually as a child, we used to get, well, they called it Saturday sweets. My parents would call it Saturday sweets. But when I was working through the steps with my sponsor, she said, so did you have to spend that on sweets? And I was like, no, I guess not. And actually now my own children, one of them probably would always buy sweets, but the others would probably buy like stickers or match attacks or a magazine or something. And that was just a real alien concept to me. If you had, a treat to buy, it was always going to be food. So that was a real sort of revelation to me that, whilst I wasn't overweight, that real kind of reward seeking with food was sort of there from the offset. Just having a quick scan of my notes. I think, I first sort of started dieting when I went to university, so about 18. I probably weighed about a stone less than I do now, so I wasn't overweight, but I thought I was. But that was actually really detrimental. It started that cycle of restricting and binging, saving up points, or sins or whatever, and then using them to binge on the foods that I wanted to, the empty calories. And I'd do that for a period of time, and then it wasn't sustainable. So then I'd stop and then inevitably put on more weight because I just carry on the binging and less of the restricting. And so over the years, my weight just kind of really slowly crept up. It wasn't a big, thing. It was just slowly progressive, which, I know now that the big book talks about that. I think I've got 3 children. In my last pregnancy, I struggled a bit with my mental health, and I massively turned to food. It was sort of over Easter, like before, around and after Easter, and I'd bought a load of Easter eggs, when they're sort of produced really early on, and they were a bargain. So I had them in my garage ready to go, one by one, ate the lot. To the point where I had to replace every single one. And then I had my son, and it just didn't stop after that, really. I just kept, eating and eating and eating, just trying to fill this void. It was, I couldn't put my finger, probably postnatal depression, but I just
That's 5 minutes.
Thank you. I never sat and dealt with the root problem. I just ate over it. So my youngest son is now 6. So I couldn't really blame it on the baby anymore. And in Easter time this year, just before Easter, I went to my GP and just cried and just said, I just don't know what to do. I've tried all the diets. I've tried, you know them all, I've tried them all. And I don't know what to do. I can't, my weight's just going up and up and up. I bought a set of clothes in the largest size I've ever been to, sort of as a stopgap. And now those clothes are too tight. And I don't want to go to the next size. And I just was so desperate. So she referred me to a health and wellbeing specialist within our surgery. And I had a few phone calls with this guy. And so as he's talking to me, he just said, I think you sound like an alcoholic, but with food. And have you ever considered OA, Overeaters Anonymous? And I said, I had heard of it, but it felt extreme. I didn't think I was extreme. And, I wasn't sure, but I was so desperate by this point. I just said, I'll try anything. I haven't tried that one, so let's try that one. So I looked up my local meeting, rang the number on there, attended the first meeting, and then got a sponsor straight away, and put down sugar instantly. I knew that was my vice. And then I didn't have any real literature, so I put down sugar, had 3 meals a day, but didn't really have a plan around those meals, but just thought, that'll do for now. And I felt like literally my throat had been cut. I really remember the sort of physical feeling of like, and I think I remember saying it in this meeting, is this common? Because it feels like my throat's really closing up. I don't know what that physical symptom was, but it did pass. And I then got some of the literature, started working the steps with my sponsor, got the plan of eating, and so started to sort of weigh and measure my food, and the difference of having really healthy meals really made the difference. Then it helped me sustain to go from breakfast to lunch and lunch to dinner. And I remember my sponsor saying to me, and it stuck with me, and I say it now to my sponsors, did anyone ever die from not eating between lunch and dinner or breakfast and lunch? And no, they didn't. And you don't need to eat between those meals. And at first, it's not pleasant because of the habits that I'd formed, but it was definitely doable. And so that's still what I do now, just 3 meals a day, follow the plan of eating. I started working the steps with my sponsor, and straight away realized I was powerless over food. I think that day that I just sort of cried in front of the GP, I realized I was powerless over food, and started working through the steps. Discovering my higher power was an interesting one. I come from a very religious background, was raised in a very evangelical Christian church, and had been married before, in a sort of an abusive relationship, with somebody very high up in the church. I still go to church, but had a real tricky relationship with God. And so, again, my sponsor just said to me, well, just think of it as something that is not me, you don't have to think of it as God in the sky with the beard, just think of it as something that's not me. And, it can be your fellows, it can be OA, it can be a tree, it can be, anything. And that was really liberating. And, as the program's gone on, I've sort of developed my understanding of my higher power. And it's definitely still a different thing to the Christian God. But working through step 4 and 5, I've really made peace with the Christian God as well, and have found a new love for my faith there as well, and feel extremely blessed and lucky to sort of have two higher powers almost that I can lean on. Just have a quick look at my notes to see what I've said, what I haven't said. Okay, so I call my sponsor Dave.
10 minutes.
Thank you. So yeah, working through the steps, you know, there have been hurdles. It hasn't been always easy peasy lemon squeezy. It's been, you know, there have been days where I have rung my sponsor, you know, white knuckling it and just going, I don't think I can do this. I can't do this. But, you know, having that support and the fellows is just one day at a time got me through to the next day and the next day. And then, you know, 7.5 months later, we're here. So now I am a sponsor, which is just a massive privilege. And I had heard people say things like, you know, I get more out of sponsoring than I think I give to it. And thought, well, that, you know, that just feels like another thing, but it's so true. I genuinely get so much out of sponsoring. And you know, one thing that my first sponsor said to me was, you know, I just do whatever my sponsor does. I don't question it, I just do it. And so I adopted that as well. And, you know, after a month of abstinence, she said, okay, so you're ready to sponsor? And I was like, what? A month? What have I got? I've got nothing to give. But I found a sponsee who was just really grateful for somebody to guide them through the steps, and I now have a different sponsee, and you know, helping them guide them through the steps, and just seeing the program from a different angle. They asking questions that I haven't thought about, and thought, yeah, they're really good questions to think about. And so it's, yeah, really, I would just encourage anyone that is you know, wobbly about sponsoring, just do it, because you'd be more beneficial for you, definitely. I think you know, if I'm honest, that there's still that small little voice that every now and again is like, okay, so, you know, you've done this for 6 months now, you've done this for 7 months now, you've probably got enough tools under your belt that you can just do this on your own. Do you need to get up early on a Saturday morning? Do you need to get up early every morning and ring your sponsor? Like, you could probably just do this. But I know I would be back in the food, like, straight away. I know it's just a little sneaky, deceitful voice. And, you know, there are a handful of fellows that I just really appreciate, that I just been able to call in those time of needs and just go, I'm not sure I can do this anymore. And, you know, they've talked me through. And then, you know, before you know it, in a few weeks' time, they're the ones calling me going, I don't know if I can do it. And then, you know, and then I'm the one saying, no, you can, you've got this, one day at a time, you know. So, you know, you guys are amazing, and thank you so much for picking up my calls whenever I have made them, and, you know, for calling me and letting me give service there as well. I thank you for that. So more recently, I've started a new job, and it's not going very well. And, you know, I just sort of wanted to share on that, really, because I've just had to, well, not had to, I've realized that I wasn't leaning on my higher power with it, and had a bit of a light bulb moment of just, well, why are you struggling through this? Just give it over to God and your higher power, and just let it be. And I had the last week before Christmas, I had a moment where I was just sort of sat at my desk and had a few little tears just that would escaped. And a lady came over to me and was like, just have a biscuit. Just come on, like, you're crying, just, you know, have a biscuit, come on now. And I was like, no, thank you. And to be able to, in that moment, genuinely, that was not of no interest to me. I was that's not going to make any difference, that's not going to make my life any better, I don't want that. It's just an absolute miracle. I just think, you know, 8 months ago, there's no way I think I could have sat here saying, you know, I was feeling in a desperate place and said, nah, I'm all right, thanks, I don't want a biscuit. But also, you know, in that situation, looking at my defects, you know, what have I done when I've come into this new place of work? What's my approach been? How have I handled things? What have I done? What can I do better when I go back in? I work in a school, so we're broken up for Christmas. You know, and I think before the program, I never looked at the situation that way. I was always about, you know, what have other people done? Why have they not done this? Why have they not done that? But to be able to sort of step back and say, okay, actually, maybe I had this expectation and they had another expectation. And so just working the tools every day, you know, it's so much more than food.
That's time.
Thank you. So thank you so much for letting me share. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.